Maya Chen sat at the edge of the wheat fields, her small hands gently stroking the fur of a creature that should have eaten her. The beast was twice her size, with sharp teeth and claws that could tear through metal, but it lay beside her like a giant cat, making soft rumbling sounds in its throat. Marcus Volkov watched from a distance, his weathered face creased with worry. Everyone called him Honey Badger, though most people forgot why. He was the security chief of New Serengeti Colony, and keeping people safe was his job. But Maya made that job very difficult. The 8-year-old girl had a gift that nobody understood. Wild animals came to her like old friends. The dangerous ones, the ones that ate livestock and sometimes people, would lie down at her feet and let her pet them. The colony doctors said it was impossible. Marcus just called it trouble. "Maya," he called out, keeping his voice calm. "Time to come inside." The girl looked up at him with bright brown eyes. The beast beside her lifted its head and stared at Marcus with yellow eyes that held too much intelligence. For a moment, the three of them stayed frozen like that. Then Maya whispered something too soft to hear, and the creature stood up and walked away into the tall grass. "I wasn't in danger," Maya said as she walked over to Marcus. "She just wanted to tell me about her babies." "They all want to tell you things," Marcus said, putting a gentle hand on her shoulder. "That's what worries me." 3 days ago, ships had arrived from space. The aliens called themselves the Kithara Consortium. They said they wanted to trade and learn about humans, but Marcus had fought in wars before, and these creatures made his skin crawl. The Kithara looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They were covered in scales that seemed to shift color in the light. Their mouths were full of teeth, and their hands ended in claws. They said they were explorers and traders. But Marcus saw the way they moved. He saw how their eyes tracked everything. Measuring, judging, planning. The colony's leaders were excited about first contact with aliens. They held meetings and dinners. They showed the Kithara around the settlement. Proud of what humans had built on this world, Marcus stayed quiet, but he watched. He always watched. The Kithara were very interested in the children. They asked many questions about human young. How fast did they grow? How long before they became adults? What made them special? The colony leaders thought this was natural curiosity. Marcus thought it was something else. On the second day, the alien leader came to see Maya. His name was Zekthara, and he was bigger than the others. When he spoke, the other Kithara listened. Maya was in the school building with the other children when he arrived. "We have heard interesting things about this young one," Zekthara said to Marcus. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "They say she speaks to the beasts of this world. Children have big imaginations," Marcus replied, stepping between the alien and the doorway to the school. Zekthara's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "May we see this imagination at work?" Marcus felt cold warning signals in his gut, the same feeling he got before battle started. The children are in class, maybe later, but Maya had heard the voices. She came outside, curious about the visitors. When she saw Zekthara, she stopped and tilted her head like she was listening to something nobody else could hear. "You smell like old death," she said to the alien leader. "Like things that died a long time ago." The air became very quiet. Zekthara stared down at the small human girl, and something flickered in his strange eyes. "What an unusual child," he said slowly. Marcus moved closer to Maya. "She's just tired." Children say funny things when they're tired, but Zekthara wasn't looking at Marcus anymore. He was studying Maya like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. "In our travels, we have met many young creatures, but none quite like this one." That evening, after the aliens returned to their ships, Marcus called a meeting with the colony council. The 12 adults who ran New Serengeti gathered in the main hall. Marcus stood before them, his face grim. "We need to prepare defenses," he said without introduction. "These aliens are not here to trade." "That's ridiculous," said Dr. Williams, the colony's chief scientist. "They've been nothing but polite and curious." "They're hunters," Marcus replied. "I've seen that look before. They're studying us like prey." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Colony life was peaceful. They grew food, raised families, and built homes. They didn't want to think about war. "You're being paranoid," said Engineer Park. Marcus looked around the room at the faces of people he had sworn to protect. Good people who had never seen real violence. "They're particularly interested in our children. That should worry you." But the council voted to continue the peaceful meetings. They believed in diplomacy and hope. Marcus believed in preparation and bullets. That night, he walked the perimeter of the colony. The alien ships sat on the landing field like sleeping metal giants. No lights showed in their windows. But Marcus felt like he was being watched. He had learned to trust his instincts during the resource wars on Earth. Those instincts had kept him alive when better men had died. He found Maya sitting by her bedroom window, looking out at the ships. "They're dreaming about hunting," she said, without turning around. "I can feel it from here." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, though part of him already knew. "Like the big cats when they smell blood. They're excited about tomorrow." She looked at him with eyes too old for her face. "They want to hurt the children. All of us." Marcus felt ice in his veins. "How do you know that?" "The same way I know when the grass cats are hungry or when the storm birds are angry. It's all the same feeling." She climbed down from the window and hugged him around the waist. "But you're going to stop them, right? Like you always do." Marcus hugged her back, his mind already racing through plans and possibilities. "Get some sleep, little one. Tomorrow might be difficult." As Maya settled into bed, Marcus made his preparations. He checked weapons, planned escape routes, and sent coded messages to the few people who might believe him. The colony slept peacefully around him, but Marcus stayed awake. In the distance, the alien ships hummed with hidden activity. Tomorrow, the hunters would come. But they would learn something about humans they didn't expect. Some prey fought back. The attack came at 3 in the morning. Marcus woke to silence, which was wrong. The colony's power grid always hummed softly through the night. The air recyclers whispered. The security sensors beeped quietly. But now there was nothing. He rolled out of bed and reached for his rifle. The weapon was old but reliable, one of the few things he had brought from Earth. His hands moved in the dark with practiced skill, checking the weapon and grabbing extra ammunition. The electromagnetic pulse had been subtle. Most people wouldn't wake up from losing power. But Marcus had been expecting it. He pressed a small button on his belt, and emergency lights began glowing throughout the colony. Battery-powered, hidden, ready. Through his window, he saw shapes moving between the buildings. The Cathara moved like liquid shadow, flowing from cover to cover. Their scales shifted color to match their surroundings. Very advanced, very quiet, but not quiet enough. Marcus slipped out of his quarters and moved toward the children's dormitory. The colony kept all the young ones in one building at night for safety. Now that made them an easy target. He reached the dormitory just as the first Cathara hunter was climbing through a window. The alien was bigger than Marcus, with claws that gleamed in the emergency lighting. It turned toward the sleeping children with hungry eyes. Marcus put 3 bullets in its chest before it could take another step. The rifle shots echoed through the night like thunder. The hunter stumbled backward. Purple blood sprang from its wounds. It looked down at the holes in its body with surprise, as if it had never been hurt before. "Emergency Protocol 7, Marcus shouted into his communicator. His voice carried through the battery-powered speakers hidden around the colony. "All civilians to safe rooms. This is not a drill." The Cathara hunter was still alive, reaching for its weapon despite the bullets in its chest. Marcus put 2 more rounds in its head. The alien finally stopped moving. Around the colony, people were screaming as they woke up to find monsters in their homes. But the emergency drills Marcus had insisted on were working. Families ran toward the reinforced buildings where they could lock themselves inside. 3 more Cathara appeared at the far end of the dormitory hall. They moved faster now, no longer trying to be quiet. Their claws clicked on the metal floor as they ran toward Marcus. He dropped behind an overturned table and started shooting. The aliens scattered, their scales shifting to blend with the walls. Smart. But Marcus had fought enemies who could change color before. He watched for the shimmer that gave them away. There, He put a burst of gunfire into seemingly empty air and was rewarded with a shriek of pain. Purple blood splattered on the wall as an invisible alien stumbled into view. The other two hunters flanked him from opposite sides. Marcus rolled behind a support pillar as energy bolts burned the air where he had been standing. The smell of melted metal filled his nose. "Maya," he called out. "Get to safe room 3. Now." But when he looked toward the children's sleeping area, she wasn't there. Her bed was empty. The window beside it was broken. Ice filled Marcus's veins. The girl was gone. He fought his way out of the building, trading bullets for energy bolts with the two remaining hunters. One of them got too close, and Marcus showed it why people called him Honey Badger. He grabbed the alien's arm and used its own claws to tear open its throat. Outside, the colony was a battlefield. Emergency lights cast crazy shadows as people ran between buildings. Some colonists had weapons and were fighting back. Others were just trying to survive. Marcus ignored the battle around him and focused on tracks in the dirt. Maya's small footprints led away from the dormitory toward the wheat fields. 3 sets of alien prints followed her. "Status report," he said into his communicator as he jogged toward the fields. "We've got maybe half the civilians in safe rooms," came the reply from his deputy. "Lost contact with sections 4 and 7. The aliens are using some kind of jamming." "How many hostiles?" "At least 12, maybe more. They're coordinated and well-armed." Marcus reached the edge of the wheat field and knelt to examine the ground. Maya's trail was clear in the soft earth. She was running, but not in panic. The girl was moving with purpose, following paths that only she seemed to know. Behind her, the 3 Cathara hunters were spread out in a search pattern. Professional. Methodical. But they didn't know the terrain like Maya did. "Sir." His deputy's voice crackled through the radio. "We're holding them off. But barely. How long before you get back?" 1. Marcus looked into the dark wheat field where a little girl was being hunted by alien killers. Then he looked back at the colony where his people were fighting for their lives. "Continue the defense," he said quietly. "I have something to do. Sir, nobody gets left behind. Especially not the children." He turned off the communicator and started into the field. Behind him, energy weapons lit up the night as the battle for New Serengeti continued. Ahead of him, somewhere in the darkness, Maya was running for her life. The wheat was tall enough to hide a grown man. Marcus moved through it like a ghost, following the trail and listening for sounds. The Cathara hunters were good, but they were hunting in a place they didn't understand. This was Maya's world. She had played in these fields every day since the colony was founded. She knew every hill, every stream, every animal path. The aliens were the ones who were lost now. Marcus heard something moving through the grain to his left. He froze and listened. Heavy footsteps. Claws scraping against stalks. One of the hunters was close. He moved sideways through the wheat until he could see the alien clearly. The creature was following Maya's trail, but it kept stopping to look around nervously. Something was making it uncomfortable. Then Marcus heard what the alien heard. Growling, low and threatening, coming from multiple directions. The sounds of predators that had been disturbed. Maya wasn't just running randomly through the field. She was calling for help in the only way she knew how. The Cathara hunter spun around as something large crashed through the wheat behind it. Marcus caught a glimpse of golden fur and sharp teeth before the colony's apex predator slammed into the alien hunter. The fight was brief and brutal. The local predator was built for this kind of combat. The alien wasn't. Marcus smiled grimly and continued following Maya's trail. The girl was teaching these hunters something about Earth creatures they hadn't expected to learn. Some animals protected their young, and Maya Chen was young indeed. Marcus found Maya 2 kilometers into the wheat field, surrounded by death. The remains of 2 Cathara hunters lay scattered around a small clearing. Purple blood stained the golden grain. The local predators had been thorough in their work, but Maya sat in the middle of it all, perfectly safe, with her arms around a creature that should have killed her. The pack leader was the size of a small horse, with silver fur and eyes like black diamonds. 6 others prowled the edge of the clearing, their lips pulled back to show teeth like white daggers. They watched Marcus approach but made no move to attack him. "Hello, Marcus," Maya said quietly. "I knew you would come. Are you hurt?" he asked, keeping his weapon ready but pointed down. The predators were calm now, but that could change quickly. "No, they protected me." She scratched behind the pack leader's ears. "But there's still one more hunter coming. A big one. The mean one." Marcus knelt beside her, his eyes scanning the tree line. "How do you know?" "They told me. Animals always know when danger is coming." Maya's voice was steady, but he could see she was scared. "The mean one is angry that his friends died. He wants to hurt us both now." As if summoned by her words, Zekthara stepped into the clearing. The alien leader was even bigger than Marcus remembered. His scales had turned dark red, and his claws were extended. When he spoke, his voice was full of rage. "You killed my hunters, human. You turned beasts against us." His yellow eyes fixed on Maya. "And you, small one. You are more dangerous than we thought." The pack of predators around Maya began to growl. Their hackles rose as they sensed the threat. But Zekthara pulled out a weapon that hummed with energy. One shot would kill them all. "Let the girl go," Marcus said, raising his rifle. "Your fight is with me." Zekthara laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "My fight is with your entire species. You think you are special because you bond with animals? We have seen this before. We have killed species like yours across the galaxy. Then you should know what happens when you threaten our children." The alien's weapon swung toward Marcus. Energy bolts burned through the air where he had been standing. But Marcus was already moving. He rolled behind a fallen log and came up shooting. His bullets struck Zekthara's center mass, but the alien was wearing armor under his scales. The shots knocked him backward, but didn't penetrate. Zekthara snarled and returned fire, his energy weapon carving chunks out of Marcus's cover. "Run, Maya," Marcus shouted. "Get to the safe room." But the girl didn't run. Instead, she whispered something to the pack leader. The great predator leaped toward Zekthara with a roar that shook the ground. The alien spun and fired, his energy bolt catching the creature in midair. The pack leader crashed to the earth, its silver fur smoking from the wound. It tried to stand but collapsed, breathing hard. Maya screamed. The sound that came from the 8-year-old girl was unlike anything Marcus had ever heard. It was rage and pain and loss all mixed together. But there was something else in it too, something that made the hair on his arms stand up. Every predator in the wheat field heard that scream, and they all answered. They came from every direction. Large cats with golden fur, smaller hunters with stripes and spots, flying creatures with sharp beaks, things Marcus had never seen before. Emerging from burrows and caves, all of them moving toward the clearing with one purpose. Zekthara's eyes went wide as he realized what was happening. "Impossible," he whispered. "She's just a child." "She's our child," Marcus said, and shot him in the face. The bullet cracked the alien's faceplate but didn't penetrate. Zekthara stumbled backward, purple blood dripping from the wound. His weapon swung toward Maya, but Marcus was already moving. He tackled the alien around the waist, driving both of them to the ground. Zekthara was stronger, but Marcus had been in close combat before. He grabbed the alien's weapon hand and twisted until something snapped. Zekthara shrieked and raked his claws across Marcus's chest. The sharp points tore through his shirt and left deep scratches in his skin. Pain flared, but Marcus held on. He had been hurt worse before. They rolled across the ground, each trying to gain advantage. Zekthara was faster and stronger, but Marcus fought dirty. He bit the alien's arm when it got too close to his face. He used his elbows and knees to strike nerve clusters. He fought like the honey badger he was named after. Around them, the pack of local predators was arriving. They circled the fight but didn't interfere. This was between the two leaders. But Marcus could see them watching, ready to act if he fell. Zekthara managed to get on top and wrapped his claws around Marcus's throat. "You cannot win, human. We are the perfect predators." Marcus smiled up at him, blood running from the corner of his mouth. "Perfect predators don't explain themselves to their prey. He grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it into Zekthara's eyes. The alien flinched, and Marcus used the moment to drive his knee into the creature's armored belly. No armor covered the joints. Zekthara doubled over in pain, and Marcus rolled away. He came up with a rock in his hand, a piece of granite the size of his fist. Not elegant, but effective. The alien straightened just in time to catch the rock full in the face. His faceplate shattered completely, and he staggered backward, purple blood streaming from his ruined features. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" Marcus asked, advancing on the wounded alien. "It's not that we're the strongest or the fastest. It's that we don't quit." Zekthara tried to raise his energy weapon, but Marcus grabbed his wrist and snapped it. The weapon fell to the ground. The alien tried to slash with his other hand, but Marcus caught that too. "We don't quit when we're hurt. We don't quit when we're outnumbered. And we especially don't quit when someone threatens our children." He drove his forehead into Zekthara's face with a crack that echoed through the clearing. The alien's head snapped back, and he crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Marcus stood over him, breathing hard. Blood ran from the scratches on his chest, and his knuckles were scraped raw. But he was alive. Maya was alive. That was all that mattered. The girl ran to the wounded pack leader and knelt beside it. Her small hands glowed with soft light as she touched the burn wound. Marcus blinked, wondering if he was seeing things. "How are you doing that?" he asked. "I don't know," Maya said, tears streaming down her face. "I just want her to be okay." Under her touch, the pack leader's wound began to close. The creature's breathing became stronger. After a few minutes, it opened its eyes and licked Maya's hand. Marcus looked around at the dozens of predators that had answered Maya's call. They were all watching her with something that looked like respect. Or maybe worship. "We need to get back to the colony," he said quietly. "There might be more aliens." Maya nodded and stood up. The pack leader rose beside her, fully healed. The other predators began to melt back into the wheat field. Their work done. "Marcus," Maya said as they started walking back toward the lights of the colony. "What if more bad aliens come? What if they bring big ships and lots of weapons?" Marcus looked down at the girl walking beside him. 8 years old, and already more dangerous than most soldiers he had known. Then they'll learn the same lesson this one did. What lesson? Don't mess with human children, because somewhere in the galaxy, there's always a honey badger willing to fight for them. Behind them, Zekthara lay unconscious in the wheat field, surrounded by the evidence of what happened when predators hunted human young. Some lessons were written in blood. The journey back to the colony should have taken 2 hours. It took 3 days. Marcus and Maya moved through the wilderness, while 8 remaining Kithara hunters tracked them. The aliens had found their dead leader, and were filled with rage. They wanted revenge, and they wanted the human child who could command animals. But they learned something about humans they hadn't expected. Humans never stopped. On the first day, Marcus led Maya through terrain that would exhaust most creatures. Rocky hills where loose stones could twist ankles. Dense forest where branches caught clothes and scratched skin. Muddy streams that soaked through boots and made every step harder. The Kithara were faster in short bursts. Their powerful legs could carry them quickly across open ground. But after 6 hours of constant movement, they began to slow down. After 10 hours, they were exhausted. Marcus and Maya kept walking. "How do they do it?" one of the hunters asked in their clicking language. Maya translated for Marcus, her gift extending to alien speech. "They're machines," another replied. "No living thing can move like this." For so long. But Marcus wasn't a machine. He was tired, hungry, and his feet hurt. The scratches on his chest throbbed with each step. Maya was even more tired, her small legs working twice as hard to keep up, but they didn't stop. "Are we almost home?" Maya asked as they climbed another hill. "Not yet, little one. But we're getting there." Marcus checked his rifle for the 100th time. 7 rounds left. Not enough for 8 aliens, but maybe enough to make a difference. Behind them, the Kithara were arguing. Their voices carried through the thin air, and Maya listened with a frown. What are they saying? They want to rest. Some want to give up and go back to their ship. But their new leader won't let them. She looked up at Marcus with worried eyes. The new leader is very angry. He says they can't go home without killing us both. Marcus nodded grimly. He had expected as much. Warriors who failed often didn't get second chances. That night, they made camp in a cave halfway up a mountain. Marcus let Maya sleep while he kept watch. The aliens were somewhere below them in the darkness, probably trying to rest. Marcus had other plans. He left Maya sleeping safely in the cave and climbed down the mountain in the dark. The Kithara had made their camp in a small valley, thinking they were hidden. But humans had hunted at night for thousands of years. Marcus found their water supply first. A small stream where they had filled their containers. He opened one of his emergency chemical packs and poured the contents into the water upstream from their camp. Not deadly, but it would give them stomach problems for days. Next, he found their food stores. The aliens had brought concentrated ration bars that smelled like fish. Marcus used his knife to inject them with local plant juice. Again, not fatal, but very unpleasant. Finally, he placed small explosive charges around their camp. Not enough to kill, just enough to wake them up every few hours with loud noises and bright flashes. He was back in the cave before dawn, watching Maya sleep peacefully. When the first explosion went off in the valley below, she opened one eye. Did you go mess with the bad aliens? Maybe a little. She smiled and went back to sleep. On the second day, the Kithara were sick, tired, and jumping at every shadow. 3 of them had developed fevers from the contaminated water. 2 more had severe stomach pain from the poisoned food. All of them were exhausted from the interrupted sleep. Marcus and Maya continued their steady pace through the mountains. This is impossible, the aliens complained. They should be dead by now. How can they keep moving? Maybe they're not really intelligent, suggested one. Maybe they're just animals that learn to use tools. Maya translated this for Marcus, and he chuckled. Tell them that animals are often smarter than people think. But he didn't really want Maya to waste energy talking to their enemies. Instead, he taught her how to move more efficiently, how to breathe while climbing, how to place her feet to avoid slipping, how to use her walking stick to take weight off her legs. Humans are persistence hunters, he explained as they walked. Long ago, before we had tools, we hunted by just following animals until they got too tired to run. We weren't the fastest or strongest. We were just the most stubborn. Like honey badgers. Exactly like honey badgers. Behind them, another Kithara hunter collapsed from exhaustion. The others had to carry him, which slowed them down even more. Their new leader was furious, but there was nothing he could do. His hunters were falling apart. On the third day, Marcus changed tactics. Instead of just running away, he began to hunt. The Kithara had spread out to search for them, thinking that humans would try to hide. They didn't expect their prey to attack. Marcus left Maya in a safe hiding spot and began picking off the aliens one by one. He used rocks to trigger small avalanches that buried hunters under tons of stone. He loosened trail markers so aliens would get lost in box canyons. He set snares made from vines that would trip running hunters and send them tumbling down cliff faces. Where are they? The aliens asked each other, their voices filled with fear. How can 2 humans be everywhere at once? The answer was simple. Marcus knew the terrain, and he knew how to use it. Every hill and valley became a weapon. Every tree and boulder became cover. The mountain itself was fighting on his side. By noon on the third day, only 4 Kithara hunters were left. They were exhausted, sick, lost, and terrified. Their leader tried to keep them together, but fear was spreading through his ranks like a disease. We should go back to the ship, one of them said. This world is cursed. We cannot return without the child. Their leader snarled. The consortium demands her death. Then the consortium can come do it themselves, the hunter replied. I'm not dying in this place. 2 of them turned around and started walking back toward their ship. Their leader killed them both with his energy weapon, leaving him with only one companion. Maya watched this happen through her connection to a mountain bird that was flying overhead. She relayed what she saw to Marcus, who nodded grimly. It's almost over, he told her. Just 2 left now. The leader is the dangerous one. He won't give up until one of us is dead. Then we'll have to make sure it's him. That evening, they reached the ancient ruins that Maya had mentioned. Stone buildings from a civilization that had died out long before humans arrived. The perfect place for a final battle. Marcus checked his rifle. 3 rounds left. Not many, but it would have to be enough. Stay close to me, he told Maya as they entered the ruins. Whatever happens, don't try to run. We face this together. The last 2 Kithara hunters were already there, waiting for them. The leader stood in the center of the ancient courtyard, his energy weapon ready. His remaining companion crouched behind a stone pillar, nervous and afraid. You have led us quite a chase, humans, the leader called out. But it ends here. You cannot run anymore. Marcus stepped into the courtyard, his rifle aimed at the alien's chest. Who says we're running? Around them, the ruins were filled with the sound of approaching footsteps. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The local predators had followed Maya's scent, and they were coming to help their young friend. The Kithara leader looked around in growing alarm as glowing eyes appeared in the shadows. Growls echoed off the ancient stones. The smell of wild things filled the air. Impossible, he whispered. No creature can command so many beasts. Maya stepped up beside Marcus, no longer looking like a frightened child. I'm not commanding them. I'm just asking for help. The final battle was about to begin, and the hunters were about to learn why humans had survived every extinction event their world could throw at them. They never quit fighting for their children. The ancient ruins told a story written in stone. As Marcus and Maya moved through the courtyard, they saw carvings on the walls. Pictures of creatures that looked like the people who had built this place. Happy families. Children playing, cities full of life. And then, the carvings changed. They showed ships coming from the sky. Creatures with claws and scales. The same creatures that had come to New Serengeti. The Kithara were here before, Maya whispered, her hand tracing the stone pictures. They killed everyone. Marcus saw the final carvings. Burning cities. Empty homes. A whole world turned to ash because the Kithara Consortium had decided its people were too dangerous to live. Not this time, he said quietly. This time, they picked the wrong species. The Kithara leader stood in the center of the courtyard, his energy weapon humming with power. His companion had positioned himself behind a stone pillar, ready to provide covering fire. 2 professional killers against 1 man and a child. But the odds weren't quite that simple. Around the edges of the ruins, hundreds of eyes gleamed in the darkness. The entire ecosystem of New Serengeti had come to protect Maya. Predators that normally hunted each other were standing side by side. All of them focused on the aliens who threatened their young friend. You think animals can save you? The Kithara leader laughed. We have weapons that can burn this entire ruin to the ground. Animals? Marcus smiled grimly. These aren't just animals. They're Maya's family. And family protects. Family. The alien raised his weapon to fire, but Marcus was already moving. 3 bullets left in his rifle. He had to make them count. The first shot caught the companion behind the pillar, spinning him around and sending him crashing into the stone wall. The alien didn't get up. The second shot was aimed at the leader's weapon. It struck the energy projector and sent sparks flying, but didn't disable it completely. The third shot went wild as Marcus dove for cover. Energy bolts burned through the air where he had been standing, leaving smoking holes in the ancient stone. 1 human with an empty gun, the leader snarled. How pathetic. But Marcus wasn't done. He had learned long ago that weapons were just tools. The real weapon was the person who used them. He charged across the courtyard, throwing his empty rifle at the alien's head. The leader dodged easily, but the distraction gave Marcus time to close the distance. They crashed together in the center of the ruins, rolling across stones that had been carved by hands that were dust. The Kithara leader was stronger and faster. His claws raked across Marcus's arms and chest, leaving deep cuts that bled freely. His armor turned aside most of Marcus's punches, but Marcus had been fighting longer than the alien had been alive. Every time the alien threw him down, Marcus got back up. Every time claws tore his skin, he kept fighting. When his left arm stopped working properly, he switched to fighting one-handed. When blood ran into his eyes, he wiped it away and kept swinging. "Why won't you die?" The alien gasped, purple blood streaming from his own wounds. "Because I'm not done yet," Marcus replied, and headbutted him in the face. The alien's faceplate cracked, and he stumbled backward. Marcus pressed his advantage, driving elbow strikes into nerve clusters. But the alien's armor was too good. The blows hurt but didn't cripple. The Cathara leader managed to grab Marcus around the throat with both hands. His claws dug into human flesh, drawing more blood. "I will kill you slowly, human. And then I will kill the child." Marcus smiled up at him, blood running from the corner of his mouth. "You talk too much." Maya's voice echoed across the courtyard. Not words, but something deeper. A sound that every living thing understood. The call of young, in danger. The predators answered. They poured out of the shadows like a living wave. Cats with golden fur and silver teeth. Wolves with eyes like stars. Flying hunters with beaks like swords. Things that had no names in human language. All moving with one purpose. The Cathara leader released Marcus and spun around, his weapon firing wildly into the approaching mass of claws and fangs. Energy bolts burned through fur and flesh, but for every creature that fell, 10 more took its place. "It's impossible," the alien screamed. "No single being can control so many." "She's not controlling them," Marcus said, getting slowly to his feet. Blood ran from dozens of cuts, and his left arm hung useless at his side. But he was still standing, still fighting. "She's asking them to help protect their world." The alien turned back toward Maya, raising his weapon for a killing shot. But Marcus was there, grabbing the energy projector with his good hand. They struggled for control of the weapon as predators circled around them. "You cannot win," the Cathara leader snarled. "We are the perfect predators. We have killed 100 species. Perfect predators don't have to brag about it," Marcus replied, and twisted the weapon out of the alien's grip. But the Cathara wasn't finished. He had backup weapons, smaller energy pistols built into his armor. One of them came free. Aimed directly at Maya's small form, Marcus threw himself between them just as the weapon fired. The energy bolt caught him in the chest, burning through clothing and flesh. Pain exploded through his body like liquid fire. He crashed to the ground, his vision going dark around the edges. The Cathara leader stood over him, laughing. Perfect predators finish their kills, but he had forgotten about the hundreds of real predators that surrounded them. Maya's scream of anguish echoed off the stone walls, and every creature in the ruins felt her pain as their own. They fell on the alien leader like a storm of teeth and claws. When it was over, when the last echo had faded from the ancient stones, Maya knelt beside Marcus. Her small hands glowed with the same light she had used to heal the pack leader. But this wound was different, deeper, more serious. "Don't leave me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Please don't leave me." Marcus managed a weak smile. "Not going anywhere, little one. Takes more than one lizard to stop a honey badger." The light from her hands grew brighter, and warmth spread through his chest. The pain began to fade, replaced by a tingling sensation like electricity in his veins. When the light finally dimmed, the wound was gone. "How?" he asked, sitting up carefully. "I don't know. I just ask things to heal. And sometimes they listen." She hugged him tightly. "I was so scared you were going to die. Can't get rid of me that easily." Ships began appearing in the sky above them. Human ships from the colony, coming to find their missing security chief and the little girl everyone loved. They landed in the courtyard, and people poured out, with medical supplies and worried faces. But there were other ships too, alien vessels that Marcus didn't recognize. They landed at a respectful distance and waited. A delegation of beings approached under a flag of truce. They were different from the Cathara. Smaller, less threatening. Their leader was an elderly creature with 4 arms and kind eyes. "We are the Galactic Council," she said in accented but understandable English. "We came as soon as we received the distress signal from the Kythera ship. Are you here to finish what they started?" Marcus asked, his hand moving toward his sidearm. "No," the alien replied quickly. "We are here to apologize. The Kythera Consortium acted without our knowledge or permission. What they did here, it violates every law of civilized space." She looked around at the ruins, at the evidence of an ancient genocide carved in stone. "This is not the first world where they have done this, but it will be the last." "What do you mean?" "Word has spread throughout the galaxy about what happened here. How one human and one human child defeated an entire Kythera hunting pack. How your species fights to protect its young." The alien's eyes were filled with something that might have been awe. "The consortium has disbanded. Their member species want nothing to do with creatures who hunt children." Marcus looked down at Maya, who was sitting quietly beside him with a predator from the local ecosystem curled up in her lap like a giant cat. "We're not looking for war," he said carefully. "We just want to raise our families in peace. And that is what makes you dangerous," the alien replied with a gentle smile. "Any species that will fight to the death for its children is not to be trifled with. The galaxy has learned that lesson." Later, after the diplomats had left and the colony had celebrated, Marcus found Maya sitting by herself in the wheat field where it all began. She was watching the sunset paint the sky red and gold. "Regrets?" he asked, sitting down beside her. "No," she said quietly. "But I keep thinking about those stone pictures. All those people who died because nobody fought for them. That won't happen again. Not while humans are around to stop it. Promise?" Marcus looked out across the wheat field where human children would grow up safe because one little girl had asked for help and one stubborn man had refused to let her down. "Promise," he said. In the distance, alien ships prepared to carry word back to the galaxy. The message was simple and clear. Humanity had children. And somewhere in the universe, there were always honey badgers willing to fight for them. The hunt was over. The hunted had won. Some lessons, once learned, were never forgotten.